So, Berto, I thought we would do some tougher bluffs and some gripes of wrath and like just one of those garbage
episodes.
Garbage pile episodes. What do you say?
Garbage Pail Kids episodes, yes.
This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor and someone who occasionally likes to do garbage pail episodes. Who are you, Berto?
My name is Humberto Castañeda, and I like to research Bram Stoker.
We have two special guests with us back on the podcast. Michael Drane, future Dr. Michael Drane from the Unpopular Culture Podcast.
Hello.
And also from the Unpopular Culture Podcast, Corey Stewart. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
So are you guys ready to participate in some garbage podcasting?
So
yeah,
ready.
tougher bluff.
Okay, but before we get to a tougher bluff, we have our live event coming up.
Yeah.
And January 27, 2018.
Is that Saturday?
It's a Saturday.
I can't.
Yeah.
I've got a matinee of the Miz.
3 o'clock, Antioch, University of Seattle. You guys are coming.
Psychology in
I'll be
Seattle
there.
will be represented by Unpopular Culture.
Have we thought about you guys doing a segment?
We've talked about it. We're working on it. We're thinking about
I
something
want
good.
it to be good.
Little
But yes.
skit.
Hey, any listeners that might have some ideas, you could hit us up on Facebook.
Do you have-
Psychology
do you
in
wanna-
Seattle, UPC podcast.
So do you want to workshop anything at this point?
Jeez, man. No.
Okay.
I don't know. I have to think about it.
Well, if you want to keep people in suspense, I like
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so tougher bluff. Now, this is not a tougher bluff. This is just asking a question. Don't look at the screen, Corey, because you might be able to see.
Cheater!
My bad.
Okay. So rates of chlamydia and gonorrhea, but let's stick with chlamydia
Oh, a softball.
What?
Amongst us or in the population?
by state. By
Amongst the
state.
four of us.
So
No.
what?
Oh, my
what-
God.
What states do you think in the United States
No, I can't.
have the most or the least or the middle or whatever? Like, just take some guesses and
Arizona.
well, where do you
Hold on.
That's just a state. You got to say, like, what ranking do you think Arizona
And this is for
Number
both?
one.
No, Arizona is not number one.
But this is for both.
But it's on there, right?
No, just do chlamydia.
Oh, just chlamydia. Oh, that's easy. Ohio.
What the?
You
That
guys
was so rude.
You guys are just naming states. You realize?
Wait, you
No,
want us to...
Ohio has the most.
Okay, say that, because you could also say the
No.
least.
Oh, no,
or
no.
something.
Ohio has the highest.
No,
Oh
it's
my God.
Ohio and Arizona are Arizona is 19 and Ohio is 14.
Now, are out of 50, all 50 states are ranked here?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
He excluded
Okay.
3 states.
Number one has the most chlamydia.
The highest rates per
Right.
capita.
Uh-huh.
All right.
So the most.
So I went with Arizona
not the
because
most,
it's
'cause-
like
Per
like
state.
there's
Per
like
capita in the state.
Sun City and Phoenix has like this really like elderly population. There's a lot of sexual
Yeah, what state?
there's a lot of sexual
That's the
activity
one he
among
had
old
said. But
people.
I'm
That's
gonna go-
that's a real thing.
Yeah.
In Arizona, and there's a lot of retirees in Arizona. So,
Well, Arizona has
16.
it's at 19,
Oh,
which is,
19.
so that's pretty respectable.
So I actually
Yeah.
got closer because I said 14. I said Ohio.
you did.
But I'm going to
That
go
is
now
pretty high.
down south. Alabama.
to the bayou.
Yeah, like Florida.
oh,
We're
where
getting
Tommy
closer.
Wiseau lives.
we're getting closer. That's 11.
Woo! What about you, Corey?
Florida.
Whoa.
That's Florida.
might be it.
We're getting further away. 24,
Oh, what?
That's
That's surprising.
right in the middle. Yeah.
Jinx.
You owe me a Coke.
You guys.
Where else? What other guesses?
I'm trying to think like something not obvious, like Montana or something rural.
Jesus. Am I going to have to
California?
go here?
It could be California,
Alaska.
New York.
California is 17. Alaska is number 1.
Yay!
Oh, what?
Winner. Chlamydia dinner.
Oh God!
Yikes.
On the rocks, no less.
Yeah, so we got Alaska, Mississippi, we got Louisiana,
Wow.
Georgia, New Mexico, North Carolina, South Carolina, Arkansas, Delaware, Oklahoma.
Oh,
Where do you think Washington ranks? Washington State.
Low.
Yeah, that's progressive.
Low.
wonderful.
37.
But we're like,
Careful, smart people.
but we're also like, heathens who have sex all the
And
time.
actually, a lot
That's
of
true.
Washington is rural, too. Rural juror.
Yeah.
The rural juror.
32.
Oh my God, exactly right.
Yay!
Whoa, nice.
He's
Did you see the
personally
reflection
responsible
off
for that
my
number.
eyeballs?
I should, but I don't. That'd be awesome if I could read that.
Who's in last place? What do you think?
Who has the least amount of unprotected sex?
Well, it's
Rhode
also
Island.
per capita.
Oh.
There's Rhode Island. Rhode Island is 36.
It's getting up there, but it's a lot of states here. The least chlamydia. I mean, Washington was 32.
Oh, California. I don't
No.
know. I'm not really.
California's 17.
I can't
Okay.
find a way to gauge these. Is the
Hawaii.
problem.
Hawaii is 28.
Oh, really?
Like I'm not going by.
Jeez.
I mean, you can't go socioeconomic. You can't go age. You can't really. There's nothing to really grab onto when you're trying to figure out where these are.
least-
Yeah.
Oregon.
Oregon is 35.
All right, what was the number one? Alaska. So let's say there's
How
nothing
could you
about
ever
Alaska. Why
guess?
Alaska?
Huh?
How could you ever guess?
I don't know. It's Vermont. That's the lowest.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Like
Vermont
most obscure
and
state.
New Hampshire and Vermont.
I was gonna go Massachusetts.
West Virginia is 48, which is weird. Maine, Utah kind of makes sense, I suppose.
Yeah, it does.
Idaho, Wyoming.
I should have said Utah.
Why does it make
Connecticut,
sense?
Mormons.
There's a high Mormon population there.
People.
Oh.
They're not
yeah.
particularly promiscuous, generally
I
speaking.
see.
Right. So it doesn't it? The thing about this is that it kind of follows stereotype lines, but it also kind of doesn't.
It breaks some stereotypes.
I'm totally shocked. Alaska number one. What's that about?
That does.
and-
It's cold.
And the rates are extremely different. So in Alaska, you have 771 per 100,000 with chlamydia. I think per year. I don't know.
Maybe they just have worse doctors up there.
Yeah. And Vermont is about a third of
I
that.
don't know. I got nothing.
At 269. So it's not like slight variations of the mean. We're talking like a pretty
Big differences.
by state, pretty different rates, So I think that's interesting. And gonorrhea has a similar rate difference between, obviously chlamydia and gonorrhea rates would correspond,
Is Alaska number one on both?
No, gonorrhea number one looks like Mississippi, which is number two,
Number two
for chlamydia. Yeah.
Yikes.
And those things have nothing in common. What does Alaska and Mississippi have in common? That'd be a hell of a study. Try to figure that out.
I mean, we could pull out some stereotypes, in
I
there.
suppose. But what's the Alaska stereotype? I don't even know what to say. Like, don't they?
Alaska, the stereotypes are that, you're running away from society is one stereotype. It's like you're trying to get away from, you're trying to run from the law or people or something.
But aren't they both fairly conservative states?
Yes.
Alaska's conservative?
That's
Yeah.
surprising.
I didn't know that.
It's been
I guess
different
Sarah
over the
Palin was
years.
the governor.
Yeah. But anyway, but I will also say I have relatives who live in Alaska and they don't, they don't fit that stereotype at all.
Good to hear, man.
They're just regular Americans who just happen to live further north than Seattle. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, they're riddled with chlamydia and gonorrhea.
But they're normal.
All right, tougher bluff, Corey. For adults, binge drinking 5 or more drinks has decreased in the United States over the past decade. Oh, actually, I haven't used this one. So for adults, binge drinking, which is 5 or more drinks, okay, at a time. So binge drinking for adults has decreased in the U.S. over the past decade, over the past 10 years. What do you think? Tough or bluff, Corey? Tough. What, you think so?
Yes, because
People are getting woke to drinking?
to weed.
Oh, okay.
Woke to weed.
Yeah.
WW.
All right. What do you
Alternative sources.
What do you think, Drane?
Yeah, I don't know. This could go either way. Tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So people are like, hey, let's stop binge drinking.
Yeah, because the opioid crisis is going on. There's more substance abuse in general, I would say, going up. I'm going to say bluff. I'm going to change it. I'm going to say bluff.
Oh.
Whoa.
Sorry,
upset.
guys. Is that a rule?
I'm going bluff, but for honest, true reasons from the start. I think that it's bluff because adults, they opened up liquor sales in more places. There's more variety of liquors. There's more craft beers. So I think it's bluff. More drinking.
Yeah, it's bluff.
Oh,
Yes!
damn.
The percentage of adults reporting binge drinking 5 or more drinks has increased from 10% about a decade ago to 13%. So,
Corey's totally right. It's because they legalize weed. Seriously. It's a good substitute as far as like health benefits.
But she said it was going down.
yeah.
Yeah, I
went
was
up.
saying they were drinking less because
Yeah.
they're
They're drinking
weed.
more.
That's what I'm saying.
No, they're drinking
No,
more now.
They're drinking more now.
Oh.
You were right
you were
for the
right.
wrong reason.
Oh no! Why don't I listen?
Yeah, you were right for the wrong reasons.
Story of my
binge drinking, binge drinking. That phrase is a little funny because some people wouldn't consider 5 drinks binge drinking. But anyway, 5 or more drinks has particularly increased among women, minorities, and adults over the age of 65.
Since when?
Nice.
Since 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
So this is interesting to me because I wouldn't have thought that intuitively. I would have thought, well, people are more health conscious now. You know, there's less smoking, blah blah. But then I also, when I saw the stat, I was like, well, I feel like the stigma around drinking has decreased over the years. You know, like I love Modern Family, the TV show Modern Family, and the mom Claire, and now her daughter Haley. It's a running joke that Claire's always drinking wine.
Yeah,
you know
I
what
see.
I mean? Like she's always buzzed. She's always drunk.
Whereas in the 80s, when Mona was always drinking, oh wait, it was still okay.
Well, it was considered like, sort of immoral or
Right.
where now it's more mainstream. It's like expected, like if you're a soccer mom, like you got to drink some wine to get by, whereas before that was more frowned upon, at least in the cultural pockets that I've ran in throughout my life.
So I certainly feel like when you see Mad Men or something like this, it seems like in the 60s, it was just one big lushy town.
Well, drinking has always been a huge thing. Let's not get that, I mean, look at, what happened during Prohibition. You had higher liquor sales than ever.
Oh, I thought everyone stopped drinking.
Yeah, right, yeah. What? I was just in a place here in Seattle that was an old bootleg bar.
The bathtub gin or something?
We went there.
Is it by your house?
No.
Because there's the
there's the Merchants Cafe.
Okay.
Right. And I think they have like some kind of Shanghai tunnel or bootleg tunnel down there. It was fascinating.
yeah.
Anyway,
Was it on a corner? Because there's the sock company one.
I can't remember where. Oh, the Smith Tower. What do you guys think about the Smith Tower having some bootleg tunnels in it?
Really?
Because it was owned by Roy Olmsted. He was like one of the hugest bootleggers ever.
Did you learn that in the underground tour?
Well, I knew who Roy Olmsted was, but yes, I did learn the building
didn't
part
know
in
that.
the underground tour. Yeah.
So anyone got any gripes of wrath? Berto, why do we call it gripes of wrath anyway?
We do call it gripes of wrath.
I know, but why?
Oh, okay, because, there's grapes of wrath and there's gripes when you don't like something. So I juxtaposition the two of them into one beautiful creation.
It's smart. It simultaneously carries I'm going to complain and I'm angry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice job.
A more accurate story as to why is while we were recording within the first few weeks of this podcast in 2008, while we were recording, I was like, what should we call this segment? And Berto just said gripes of wrath.
It was free association.
and because I was like, it's sort of like gripes or complaining. He's like gripes of wrath. In my head, I was like, that's stupid. But as with a lot of things like Tough or Bluff, same thing. I was like, what do we call like? I'm trying to come up with a name for this segment where it's like you have true and false, and so it's like on one hand you're trying to bluff, and Berto's like Tough or Bluff, and I'm like that is a stupid name. Tough makes no sense. But
Tough.
I noticed that.
It holds up.
But
Yeah, it does.
because he blurted it out, you can't take that back. You can't.
You're
It's
so
like
talented.
it's like
I'm just intuitive.
it's like 2 years later, like renaming your cat. Like you're not going to do that. It
Like
just
renaming. Yeah, exactly.
you can't do it. Anyway, so anyone got a gripe of wrath?
The gripes of wrath. I do. I actually do. So this thing happens. I'm sure you guys are. You guys on social media, like the Facebooks of the world? Do
Occasionally.
you tend to be on that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Just about every day.
So every now and then, someone in my contacts list will post this sort of like medium tragedy, but it is posted in such a like cry for help way. Now, if it were an actual tragedy, I'd be like, okay, that's a problem, right? But it's never a really bad thing. It's like, there it goes again. These are just my days. And it's like, and it doesn't say what happened. And then you're like, oh my God, they just want us to ask, what happened?
Oh, yeah.
And sure enough, several people, oh no, what happened? And it's like, oh, my car just got stuck in the mud and then I got some mud on my pants or some stupid, like, sure, that's annoying, but that's not a tragedy. But they'll do it often. And it's usually the same people.
Yeah,
right?
it's a very rare thing that I'll see on Facebook, but it's always by the same
people,
like
yes.
3 people.
Because it's a personality thing.
I don't know.
I think it's a certain kind of...
Is it that they post and they're like something huge happened and then they don't tell you what it is?
Yeah, but it's not. First of all, it's not.
They
huge.
want to put some bait out there and they want you to ask
and it's
them.
usually in this case the ones I'm thinking of, they're usually sad stories or at least just not fun stories, and so it's presented in this sort of like, that's my life.
Ugh.
That's just my lot in life. And then they'll put so the comments would be something like they'll put a little picture where their nail is bleeding. And it's like, well, figures. And you're like, oh no,
You're right.
what happened?
well,
to you?
awful.
or they'll just have like FML sad face.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's usually
FML
what it is.
sad face.
It's just like FML sad face, and you're like, oh
no.
Like, but you're thinking like, is it cancer?
Right.
Or is it you haven't got your tax return today, you're getting it tomorrow.
Yes.
So like,
And that's it. Ultimately, I think if some real shit was going down in your life, you wouldn't be taking the time to post to social media about it.
Well, some people, like I just recently met someone at the Room, actually, and
The movie.
the movie, and I added him on Facebook, and like 2 days
a
later,
rando or someone in our group.
no, someone on a group, but I don't want to say the name because a couple days later they posted. Actually, they were at the hospital, and they were really at the hospital, and I was like, oh my God, that sucks. And then they luckily are fine, But if you actually had an accident or something bad happened and you want to let your social network know, please, by all means. And what do you need? So I actually had a friend of mine post that she had an accident, like a car accident, and their car was totaled. And she was like, I don't even know, because she's got a couple kids. She's like, I don't know what I'm going to do and stuff like that. And I'm lucky enough, I have 2 vehicles, like a van and a car. And so I actually PM'd her and I was like, hey, if you need to borrow my car, like you can.
Oh, you're such a good guy, bro.
Well, I was expecting some money. She never paid me, the bitch.
Man.
But no, just kidding. But the point is, I'm totally cool. Like a real bad thing happened, and I actually was able to do something or say at least be like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's fine.
So the point is, it can be used for that reason, but it's when they're
When
like
they
false
misuse
sky is falling, sort of like.
And they don't, and it's a hook. It's like, please ask me about my life. I'm not even going to tell you.
Yeah, that
what's
little
wrong.
bit is annoying at the
Yeah.
end.
Okay,
Where it's like,
I have a counter gripe of wrath.
Okay.
All right.
That's in counter to what you guys are saying.
all right.
Which is basically, a gripe of mine is when people shame people for their social media.
Yes.
It's
JK,
like,
I'm on that side.
Because like now for me, when I see someone go FML smile or FML smiley face, FML sad face, I typically don't respond because I'm just like.
Okay.
I'm just like, well, if
Right.
it's really important, you'll probably reach out to me, or maybe I'll check back and see what your comments are. But I don't feel like playing this passive game. But I would never shame someone for doing that because it's a thing for people to express themselves, and you're not forced to participate. You can like, I mean, gone are the days where you read every single thing on your wall, or
Right.
everything.
that's true.
How many things do you see? It's like, post about Trump, post about the, you're just, random photo of scenery. It's like there's a lot of boring stuff on Facebook or stuff that's doesn't really engage you very much. And so there's that, but there's also this sort of dark side to social media shaming that hurts my feelings because I'm on Facebook all the time. I post about all sorts, and people like, one of the things that people like to complain about people on Facebook is like, people are always like, posting pictures about how great their life is all the time.
Right.
And I'm
it's
just like,
what do you expect?
And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry that I'm sharing a nice picture of me and my family at a picnic. Like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with Facebook? I'm supposed to, like, I can't complain, and I can't post a nice picture.
Right.
What the fuck am I supposed to be doing on
fair
Facebook?
enough.
Yeah, and this idea that you have, there's like a supposed thing you should be is just completely wrong, I think. Like we just did the episode on Nosedive of Black Mirror where they have the rating system,
Yes.
like the 5 stars. And it's just a totally tunneled world
Yeah.
of exactly what you have to be. And so everyone's trying to like abide by those social, like play, social juggling, and it's just not working
Well,
out.
okay, but to be fair,
And everyone's
first of all-
stifled.
First of all, don't let me get to my gripe of wrath of co-hosts that out you for a gripe that you've just committed. But I will say, in that show, in that episode, imagine if there's a character in the what is it called again?
Nosedive.
The Nosedive, right? Imagine that there's a character.
Ron Howard's daughter, right?
Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Did we say that?
Yeah, that's right.
No.
Oh.
So imagine that there's a character whose way of getting likes to game the system is to always like get fake sympathy, right? So that's the extreme, right? So I'm not saying you can't complain. I'm not saying you can't brag. I'm saying don't put fish hooks out there for me to bite into that are fake.
Just don't bite into it.
That's kind of like advertising a little bit with like
But I
a
care about you,
clever
so I wanna bite.
scheme.
But if it's a pattern, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
okay, fair enough. Once it's a pattern, I'm done.
Yeah,
All right.
quit biting.
All right, tough or bluff, Berto. Money can make you happier if you use it to pay for more free time. So you can buy like a, clothes or, but if you use it to buy more free time,
Money can make you happier.
like what would you do?
Yeah, like a vacation maybe or a
time. I don't know actually. They
more
didn't
free
have
time
it.
to make more money?
Well, I'm guessing it's probably like instead of saving money by going to the store and buying a vacuum cleaner, you save time by spending more money to have one delivered. Like that's one way that you save time.
Oh, yes. I'm gonna go
Or instead of making a hat, you buy a hat.
Right.
So
No, I'm going tough on this one for sure because I myself experience that on a regular basis where I'm like, I could try to learn how to be a car mechanic, or I could just take this into the mechanic.
right, that's a good example. Yeah. What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, I think tough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you like to spend money to save time?
I don't know. It feels like there are some specific examples where that could be the case, but mostly it just feels like money can buy you happiness. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like if I bought like a jet ski
That would be nice.
or something, I'd be happy.
Well, what if you
Yeah.
bought a jet ski, but then paid someone
Like
to
a big
ride it
house.
for you so you have more free time?
Yeah, so you didn't have to ride the jet ski.
Right.
What do you think, Drane?
Well, it could create more time for rumination, and you got to be doing something with that time. As long as you're doing something that you like with the time that you've been saving, then yes, I think it'd be fine.
Was that a tough?
That's
or
a
bluff?
tough.
Okay.
Tough.
Yeah, it's tough. You guys are right.
Yay.
Those who spent more money on time-saving expenses had greater life satisfaction, even after controlling for income level, which is interesting.
Oh wow.
All right, here's another one. Corey, what do you think? Children learn moral lessons better from stories with human characters than from stories with anthropomorphic animal characters. You know what I mean? So if you tell a moral story about sharing or giving to your neighbor or being nice or something, and you use humans in the story, like Jane shared with Johnny and Johnny was happy, or Grover or Elephant gave to Mouse and blah blah blah, like which is better to teach a moral story? So my contention is children learn moral lessons better from stories with human characters as opposed to anthropomorphic animal characters. Tough or bluff, Corey? What do you think?
It seems like that's probable. Although with like cartoons
What's
and
probable?
stuff.
Is that tough or
Is that
bluff?
a word?
Tough. I
Oh,
mean,
Gotta
tough.
say the
Got it.
word.
sorry, tough.
Yeah.
Tough by a little bit.
Okay.
It could be the other way, especially with like cartoons and stuff giving like personifying elephants so much.
Yeah.
I could, I loved Franklin, the turtle.
Or
And
every
I
Pixar movie
morally
you've
was
ever
aligned
seen.
with him.
Yeah. But you're going tough, just to be clear.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
going tough.
Drane, what do you think?
Okay, so if it's probably tough ultimately, but I'm gonna put a caveat on there. If it's about animals and stuff, or like a Pixar movie or something, it's probably gonna appeal to the kid's imagination better. But it's probably gonna teach a more lifelong, lasting like connection with empathy and the moral. If they're actually human faces, they're gonna associate that those are humans. You're human. We're all human. Not. It's that. So the moral is somewhat be nice to elephants and not be nice to people a little bit when it's about elephants. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So,
Berto, what do you think?
Bluff.
Yeah,
What?
nice.
There's no way,
Wait,
man.
I want to change. Yeah, me too.
Oh, see these people? They jump
I
on
needed
the
someone
bandwagon.
else. I did.
You said it so
I was
authoritatively
like, yeah.
that
Of
she
course.
was so convinced without any. She was just like, man, he said it with such enthusiasm.
I agree.
I'm convinced.
I'm convinced. Well, no, listen. As a kid, you're
That's how
sitting
Trump
there.
got elected, by the way.
Yes, that's true. As a kid, you're sitting there watching this thing, and there's this other little human doing what's correct. In your kid mind, you're like, well, that's that human, not me. But when you're watching these cute little animals, you're like, oh, I feel empathy for these animals. If they can be kind, maybe I should too. So I'm going bluff.
It's tough.
Damn it.
I convinced you to go to the dark side.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, children who heard a story with human characters significantly increased the number of stickers they shared with other people.
Really?
Yeah.
right.
So Pixar is screwing us all up.
Well, they're learning to
Maybe if
communicate
it
with other
wasn't like
people.
elephants and the example was instead like Star Trek characters, like aliens.
Yeah. So the speculation is what you were saying, Drane, is that when you see human faces and humans doing things, it gets under your skin more because you're like, oh, well, I'm human.
Fires
you know?
those mirror neurons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Can I ask a gripe of wrath question real
Yeah.
quick? Why is it that you can see all these movies for 100 years of movies, like the Christmas story? What's the not Christmas story? The It's a Wonderful Life, right? Where Mr. Potter, he's basically the bad guy in that movie, right? And you can see all these movies time and time again where the archetypical bad guys are selfish and all these things. But there is some portion of our population that cannot identify those same archetypes in real life human beings out in our political sphere or things like that. Why is that?
Because of motivated reasoning
Yeah.
on both sides.
I disagree. I think it's because they didn't use animals and other cute creatures to illustrate the points.
Or that.
Just kidding. All right.
All right, one more tougher bluff here. Berto, a 12-hour sexual assault prevention training program.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God.
Yikes.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
Bad time to take a breath.
Yeah.
A 12-hour sexual
like,
assault,
oh my
and we'll be
God.
right back.
Well, if you noticed, I had several pauses in there because I was actually trying to figure out what I had written.
It reminds me of those things like in the comedy shows whenever the doctor's giving the bad news, but
Yeah.
but every word seems
Well, no, it's like, I'm sorry we lost him outside.
outside. Yes.
But anyway, because when I glanced at this one, I was like, oh, this is going to be a good one. It's about sex, And so I was like, a 12-hour sexual, and I was like, wait. So I paused right there, and then I said assault,
And you paused
and I
it.
was like, wait, what is this sentence about? Anyway, okay. So a 12-hour sexual assault prevention training program
Nailed it.
for first-year college women reduced the number of attempted rapes those women experienced by 64%.
Wow.
So
What?
in this experiment,
Yeah.
they took two groups of people, two groups of first-year, college freshmen,
Female.
female, and for one group they didn't put them through the 12-hour thing, and they just sent them off to college. And then this other group, they put them through 12 hours of how to prevent themselves from being sexually assaulted. How awareness around sexual assault and awareness about how to protect yourself and all this kind of stuff. And then after a period of time, maybe a couple years or something, they survey all of them and find out how the rates of sexual assault these two groups have experienced. And what I'm contending, my claim here, is that the women who went through the sexual assault prevention training program had a 64% reduction in the amount of rapes they went through, not just sexual assaults in general, but actual, rapes. Tough or bluff? Berto, what do you think?
Bluff. It was 85%.
I wouldn't do that to you.
You're not going to pull a Berto?
I don't do that. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Then it's tough.
Okay. Corey, what do you think?
I think
Tough or
bluff. I wonder how much their ability to respond to a situation could prevent the actual action from starting.
Right. Okay. Right. So that's the the turning point on the tougher bluff that I was trying to get you on, and I'll give the answer. Michael, what do you think?
I'd like to think it's tough. I'd like to think that those prevention classes help. Corey has a good point. They might not, could all the prevention
It's
in the world.
because it was women. Yeah.
Corey,
you're
you said
attacked-
bluff. We're both saying tough. Right?
I'm saying tough. I think it does reduce. I hope it
Yes.
does. Although sexual
could
assaults are
see-
notoriously underreported, so there could be some skewed data there.
Right. So it's a weird thing because you're going off self-report and
On both groups, though.
and you are right, and you are. This is just one study, but it's tough,
Yes.
and which is nice because it's like
Yeah, that's
one,
good.
it's a proof of concept in that one of the political problem with this, it's like, well, it's the women's fault for not protecting themselves or something, or there's an implication of like, if being a rape victim is easily avoided if you just follow a couple rules, you know what I mean? Which is not true.
Not true. Not the message either.
Right, because you can be targeted, and you could have like excellent prevention knowledge, and you could do everything perfectly, and you could still be the victim.
But this would be like saying, they did a study between homeowners. Half the homeowners, they put them through N hours of training on how to keep their house safe, install alarms, or whatever, and the other half they didn't. And the rates of burglary were higher in the ones that they didn't.
Well,
and then you
Right.
say, oh, it's the homeowner's fault.
Well, right.
No one
They
never would
seem
say
like
that.
kind of two separate things. Yeah, I totally agree.
But the interesting part is that at least in this one study that's in the Psychology of Women Quarterly, they found a 64% reduction,
Yeah.
which essentially means like if you had, in one group you had 100 rape incidents, in the
Yeah.
other group you would have
64.
No, you would have.
Oh, you're right. Less.
Yeah, it's like a drastic reduction. And so the interesting thing about this is that it's possible that with at least college women that there's an easy answer, because you can require all of your incoming college kids, men and women, to go through sexual assault prevention training. You could just make it a part of your thing that you
Right.
require. And if this could even just be half this findings, 32% reduction, like the amount of human suffering that you could avoid
Right.
by initiating these things. And the thing that, and I've seen similar studies that have found similar things. The thing that I always have to remember is like the world is full of lots of people of varying levels of understanding of things. And there's a fair amount of people who just don't have it on their radar. Women coming into college who just don't even have it on their radar that they might be a target of sexual assault. They haven't realized that it could be them. Do you know what I mean?
What I will say is that there is a lot of shaming, and I think this is part of what you were getting at. There is a lot of shaming when even women try to give advice on how to, like, maybe minimize your chances of attracting the wrong side sort of element or something. Because it's like, oh, how do you dare? The women shouldn't have to do anything differently. And I feel about that the same way as the homeowner example, which is, you could say all day long, homeowners should never have to lock their doors. They shouldn't have to do anything. No one should break into their houses.
Right.
And I would applaud that statement and then say, unfortunately, that's not the reality we live in.
Right.
But there is this boundary between that and saying women should not be allowed to wear skirts.
The caveat
That's
needs
another extreme.
The caveat needs to absolutely be applied that it's not going to prevent people from getting raped, and people can still get raped even though they
Absolutely.
take these classes. But
And-
when is prevention
yes.
not helped?
And houses
You
will
know?
get broken
Think about what
into.
the-
And maybe those classes should be taught to men too.
Well,
Yeah,
of course
and
they should.
and it would, right? So, because
Yeah.
men can be assaulted, one, and two, they
Right.
can.
They are the assaulters,
they
too.
Can be
Yeah.
Right.
Corey, when you were 18 and going into college or something, would this have helped you at all?
I'm sure, yeah. And I absolutely agree with what Berto was saying, that everyone should take these classes.
Yeah.
Everyone. That regardless of whether or not whose fault it is, it should be something that everyone cares about and tries to take steps towards it not happening anymore.
What would you have liked or did hear when you were 18 that might have helped to avoid being assaulted as a woman in our society?
I mean, I don't even know if it matters when I was 18. Like right now, I'll just take lifts everywhere as opposed to walking places depending on what time of night it is and where I live, you know?
Yeah.
But I would have done that when I was 18 too.
Okay.
But I might have had way more resources than a lot of people.
I see.
What about like parties in college? What would you have needed to have heard in order to avoid those kinds of possibilities?
I think it would have always taken people with me,
Okay.
which I was stubborn to do a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
I'd just be like, I'm independent. Stop it. Don't tell me I can't do things.
So when you were 18, if you would have been made more aware of the possibilities
Right.
and you know, more emphasis on like, you probably should bring a friend, and being independent is great, but maybe not in this instance.
Yes.
That might have helped you to, and maybe did help you to avoid being a target for an assault or something.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then the flip side for guys and for women, but you know, think of alcohol and substances, right? Like just hearing, hey, I'm not just telling you to watch how much you drink for your health. Here's the things that you can not decide properly when you're there.
Yeah.
And like as a guy, I would have, luckily, I mean, I just lucked out that it was a different time and I didn't end up doing anything stupid. But I wish I would have heard, hey, FYI, if you get past a certain amount of alcohol, you're bound to do stuff where you don't respect people's boundaries. You do stupid stuff. You might injure yourself or others. Like, and that would have been interesting or very important to hear. Sorry. And yet, yeah, I never heard that from anyone. And so let alone about rules of conducting yourself with someone if you're trying to get romantic. And then things like if you're already drunk, that's probably not the right time to start getting, you know, trying new moves. Like, I don't know, a whole bunch of tips and tricks that I would have loved to hear.
They probably have a bit about the substance abuse and how alcohol can be an impairment for judgment and stuff like that. They probably have a bit about how the kinds of behaviors that people who conduct rape, the kind of relate, like the, you know, things to watch for when you're at a party, how that goes down. And then probably they'll have like safety prevention tips, like in the moment you are being attacked, what do you do?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I'd like to think all that's included. And if that is all included, how could that not be helpful?
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's only, at the very least, it'll be inert, and at best, it'll actually help.
Right.
And for the men, you'd have to have whole sections on like masculinity, toxic masculinity, the things we've been taught. I have been recently rewatching old movies that I've seen many times but haven't seen recently.
Nice.
And I watched Goldfinger. And,
Oh, yes.
It's cold.
It is male aggression.
I'm doing the Austin Powers spoof of it, but
there's 60s, mid 60s, and the misogyny in this movie.
It's crazy.
And when I saw Goldfinger, for the first time when I was 12 or whatever, I didn't see anything wrong with James Bond's behavior. I was like, he's a man, you know, and he's cool and he's powerful. And yeah, you slap a girl on the butt and you say, this is man's talk, you know?
Well, and the thing,
and he James Bond literally rapes a woman in Goldfinger.
Whoa.
Or sexually assaults her.
yeah, I mean, what you have to do, right, is, of course, the woman's going to resist you, but you just kind of grab her by the hair.
Right.
And the more she pushes away, you just plant a kiss on her and then force her down on the bed. That's how you do it.
Right, so there's this whole scene, and there's several scenes in James Bond
That's
that are
what you
like
learn.
this. And several scenes, not just James Bond, but of this era. James Bond with Pussy Galore, who is this, you know, smart-talking pilot. And
No pun intended.
he
actually, I think that pun was intended. But
yeah. He likes her, and he's making comment after sexualized comment with her, and she's like, she keeps kind of blowing him off, and this is like a through line through the second half of the movie, and she's just like, it's not going to happen, pal. Like, just lay off. So
Clear, no.
Yeah. So verbal sexual harassment, one. And then that goes on. And then at a certain point, they're alone in a barn with like hay.
Yeah.
And they get into a physical altercation where he's trying to kiss her and he's trying to get her onto the ground, and she's flipping him, and he throws her across the barn. She lands in the hay. He jumps on top of her. Okay. So I'm describing
Mind-blowing.
to you a rape, okay?
Yeah.
He holds her down He finally like gets her into a hold that he can like hold her down, and then he moves in to kiss her, and she's she's thrashing around, and she said nothing but no up until this point. He plants his mouth on her mouth. She's still resisting, but then she
slowly
changes.
she melts, and that was such a trope through the 80s, maybe even early 90s, right?
Right. So
They really want it. They just don't know it.
right.
Like,
and,
what the fuck?
right?
Oh,
Yeah,
I know.
and all you have to
Oh
do
my
as a man.
God.
I mean, that's unfortunately what we grew up with. So when you
Revenge of the Nerds.
yeah, when you wonder where a
16
lot of
Candles.
that comes from, it's so it wasn't just not right then. It was also not right that they were diffusing it. But part of the sad thing is that I think a lot of those people, men and the creators of all these things, they didn't actually think of it as oh, we're doing something wrong here.
Oh,
No,
that was the
just what they were
cultural
doing.
norm.
Yeah.
And so then we grow up with that, and sure enough, I mean, again, I'm lucky I never did that, but I'm looking back and I'm thinking, if someone had asked me, just interviewed, like, well, what is the way to seduce a woman? I would have probably been like, well, you just kind of like grab her and just kiss her or something, like that was definitely images in my head of like, you just, at some point, they'll say no, but you just kind of do your thing. That's how the movies always portrayed it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so with 18-year-old young men in college, it might help to have them go through a 12-hour sexual assault prevention program. I was putting those.
Yes. By the way, even Empire Strikes Back, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
If you consider Han and Leia's interaction,
Yeah.
it's still a male aggressive personality.
Yeah.
And the woman is resisting, but eventually she gives in.
And Leia just randomly kisses Luke, and that was a little quick. Although
Right.
Luke seems more previously open to that, but at the
Sure.
same time,
But actually, he's implied younger and sort of more vulnerable. He's in a vulnerable state in that moment.
Yeah.
Because that's when he was injured, right?
Yeah.
He's just sitting there, and then she just plants like. So actually, it was bad all around.
yeah. And then the Wampa, just like, I mean, that's a whole thing you got to go into.
Oh, again, it happens.
It's so like anti-furry culture.
Right. Indiana Jones 2, with the
Temple of
blonde
Doom.
woman and stuff like that.
Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom, yeah. I mean, it's all over the place. Is the point?
Right. So the point is that we need to help our youth with understanding
Right.
the difference between what society and media has been teaching you and how to have empathy for other people. I always try to emphasize it's empathy for other humans, because people talk about PC culture and like there's all these rules and blah blah blah. It's like, no, that's not the whole point. Is like, no one wants to hurt another person's feelings,
Right.
or very few people do. Very small percentage of people actually go out in the world trying to harm other people's, trying to hurt other people. And so it's not about being PC. It's not about being like social justice warrior. It's about just knowing what hurts other people's feelings. In the past, there were people who didn't have the power to actually speak up and say, that hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
Now people are having that power. And so we have to start to incorporate that into our behavior, because presumably no one wants to actually hurt other people's feelings, right? Most 18-year-olds in college want to have sex. And the vast majority of those people want to have sex with someone who wants to have sex with them back, right?
Right.
Yep.
And so, and they might not know, based on what they've been taught by Goldfinger and James Bond, exactly how to meet that need.
Yeah.
Anyway, that does it for that Garbage Pail episode of... I like Garbage Pail because that's kind of Gripes of
Garbage
Wrath.
Pail.
Because
Yeah.
Garbage Pail, again, makes no sense.
It really lowers the expectations right up front too, so that's always
And that's a
good.
little 80s reference in there. I like it.
What was your Garbage Patch Kid? You probably didn't have it. Was there an Humberto?
My mom had a Garbage
Garbage
Cabbage Patch Kid that looked a little bit like me.
Oh, but do you remember Garbage?
Yeah, and I had the cards. I had the Garbage Pail Kid cards.
But was there an Humberto?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because there was a Kirk.
There was no Umberto.
Wow.
There was no
Nice.
Umberto.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Not at all.
I just had a whole
Kinda.
bunch of
No.
them, but I don't think I had an Umberto. No.
So it was hugely popular in the early 80s.
What was the Kirk one?
Like work or jerk or something. But they were these, so there's this, in the early 80s, there was this really popular doll that everyone had. You remember Furbies?
Yes.
So everyone had to have this one particular doll for the span of a couple years, Cabbage Patch Kids, and they were sort of bigger dolls and
chubby cheeks, weird.
Oh, I had a
little
Cabbage
mouth.
Patch Kid.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
just didn't know about Garbage Pail
so
Kids.
then someone did a riff on that,
Parody.
who and they made these stickers, and they were garbage
And
Garbage
they looked
Patch Kids.
sort of like Cabbage Patch Kids, like cute, cheeks
but
and
like
stuff.
zombies.
They're all dirty.
Yeah.
they'd have like worms coming out of their face and stuff.
Oh, I thought
And-
they were like dirty or something like.
Oh, including that.
Yeah, various, but it was kind of like Mad Magazine style
Okay, like a-
art.
okay.
And so if it was Melissa, it was like Dirty Melissa or something,
Yeah,
like
or
Crappy Kirk.
Oh my
or-
gosh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
yeah. So Google that and
Or Horny Umberto or
like
something
Corey.
weird
Actually,
like
I'm
that,
gonna continue talking. I'm gonna look up Corey Garbage
But the
Pail.
problem is
Okay.
they didn't have an Umberto because that was not a common name
Oh,
up here.
damn.
So.
That's like when Easy Bake Oven did the one where you cooked bugs and mud and you made like mud pies.
Yes, like
What? Oh, I made
Yeah.
mud pies as a kid.
Oh, I found it.
They were amazing.
There's a couple Corys.
Oh my gosh.
So there's umbilical Corey,
Umbilical Corey.
and there's a baby with a umbilical cord with pizza. Umbilical cord coming out of the baby's, and out of the umbilical cord is pizza and a fudgesicle.
Oh
think
God!
I don't think you
How
could
to
do
describe
these
the look on
parts.
Corey's face right now?
There's also
Horrified.
There's also
disgusting.
Midnight Corey, who is a zombie coming out of the ground.
Oh,
I
that kind of
that
made like.
one. That was a good one.
There's also Apple Corey,
Yeah.
who is.
no, that's
Apple
dumb.
Corey, right?
Oh my God, you have a whole bunch. You have
Okay.
Corey Cola.
Wait, what was
Corey
the pun
Cola.
with Midnight Corey?
That's just the zombie coming out of the grave.
But why was the pun? What was the pun? I don't get it.
Good
think there
question.
is
Midnight
one.
Corey.
Okay.
Midnight Corey. No idea.
Okay.
You have Corey Cola, who is they're just a person in the shape of a bottle.
Yeah.
You have Corey on the cob,
Yes.
who is a corn on the cob, and someone with very nasty teeth is eating.
Yeah, he's like breaking his teeth to eat it.
And then you have Gory Corey,
Oh.
who is a serial killer, sort of Michael Myers character, who is cooking a Boy Scout head over
I
a.
am pretty sure I had that card.
There's an arm on the side. Yeah, I like that one.
Oh, yeah, there's the arm. Yeah.
Okay.
Bilko Corey, Jay and Silent Bob.
Jalen's. That's awesome.
What about Michael here? Mike.
My name is.
There's
just
probably so many.
So boring and so.
Mike.
Mucus Michael.
Michael
You
the
got Mike-
motorcycle.
You got Mike Dyke,
Yeah. Yeah.
someone who's holding a dyke back. You got Fat Mike for some reason. You got Mad Mike, who's like a I don't know something. You got another Mad Mike who. Oh my God!
It's Mike Tyson biting the ear off Holyfield.
You have Dynamike.
Yep.
Oh, I like that
Yeah,
one.
that's what they call me.
Dynamite.
You have Mega Million Mike.
Someday.
Yeah. I'm gonna look up Umberto. Let's see. For some reason, I don't imagine that Umberto would have one. No, I don't think you have one, buddy. What
feel
about
so left out.
What
Your
about
name is too unique.
what about Bert?
Oh yeah, that could exist.
Bert, you got Early Bert and
Early Bert gets
Bugged
the worm.
Bert and Bert Squirt.
Good
Okay,
video.
let me describe Bert Squirt.
That one looks just like me too.
So Bert Squirt is a baby in the shape of pus that's coming out of a pop zit.
Oh yeah.
What is my
Weirdo.
life? Like, where am I? What am I doing?
That's so gross.
Okay, I'm gonna look. Oh yeah, so this was the one I had as a kid. Berserk Kirk. I had that on my third grade folder.
Is he wearing
Yes.
chainmail armor
He's so
over
fuzzy.
a diaper?
No,
No,
that's
he-
hair.
He's like a monkey.
Oh,
Why
I
do you
see.
get Berserk Kirk and I get Bert Sit or whatever?
Firework Kirk. Oh, here's another Berserk Kirk. That's funny. It's
It's a variant.
yeah, that's the only one. And Eerie Eric is the same one. Eerie Eric and Berserk Kirk have the same.
Lazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for that Garbage Pail Kid episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining us out there. Thanks for joining us on Unpopular Culture Podcast, people.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been fun.
Take care of yourself, deserving listeners, because
You are deserving and you deserve it.